Hello everyone, this is Greg, K4HSM, and I'm here to give an update on the latest with the inclement weather that could appear this weekend. Just wanted to give an update from the Weather Service as they have put out a area forecast discussion and a couple of things to add a note to as well. It's written in first person, so there's a lot of stuff in here that is pretty much basically saying we don't know is what we know. So let's see what they have to say about it. It goes and says, I can't stress enough the forecast for this weekend continues to have quite a bit of uncertainty associated with it. I also cannot stress enough that if the worst case scenario unfolds, the impacts of this storm are going to be quite bad. The trends over the last day or so in model guidance have favored a northward shift of the heavy snow axis, but this has also introduced a northward jog of the mixed precipitation, which is sleet and freezing rain. The transition zone between snow and sleet and the transition between sleet and snow has moved northward. It was around the Tennessee-Georgia state line. Now it's shifted closer to Knoxville. They basically advise to continue monitoring the future forecast as there's still a great deal of uncertainty. The overall setup remains largely the same. A close upper low off the Baja will eject east-northeast Friday into Saturday, interacting with a shortwave dropping southeast from Montana and a very cold surface high over the upper Midwest to produce widespread precipitation across the southeast Saturday into Sunday. So we know Saturday is going to be the big day right now. They have fairly high confidence in onset timing, with most all guidance moving precipitation into East Tennessee during the mid-morning hours, perhaps by daybreak on Saturday. But that's where the confidence that they have currently as of Wednesday ends. The rest of it is still up in the air. The trends have favored a northward shift in the heavy snow axis and mixed precipitation zones, the sleet and the freezing rain. It's driven by a more pronounced low that's tracking from the Ozarks in Arkansas northeastward into Kentucky and the Ohio Valley Saturday into Sunday, and the track of the associated surface low moving northeast through Georgia into the Carolinas. So you have basically two lows, one going above us and the other one going below us. The consensus is showing that the line that separates the snow from the mixed precipitation is lifting north of Knoxville by late Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. This means that we could get some freezing rain, sleet, wintry mix. Right now they have a 40% chance or greater that 6 inches of snow or more falls in the northern plateau and up into the western Virginia counties as you go up I-81. And it also says there's a near zero chance of snowfall in that range as far south as the I-40 corridor. That's pretty interesting. All of this, and we may end up getting nothing as far as snow concerned. We're pretty much at the mercy of a couple of low pressure systems. Meanwhile, the odds for noticeable ice accumulations in the central and southern Tennessee valleys has gone upwards substantially. It seems reasonable based on current guidance, which has trended drier with surface dew points indicating lower temperatures of the wet bulb and the likelihood that through evaporative cooling processes they can keep temperatures at or below freezing through the day on Saturday. This is despite a warm nose aloft. I'm going to talk about a warm nose here in just a couple minutes. While there remains considerable uncertainty, there seems to be enough concern for the potential impacts of this system to go ahead and hoist up a winter storm watch, which they did issue earlier, for Saturday and Sunday. It goes into effect on Friday, as a matter of fact. If the northward or the warmer trend continues, they could see snowfall totals in the northern areas continue to dwindle, and may also mean that a sizable portion of the forecast area transitions to an all rain event. So we just get cold rain out of this. Whether this continues or it abates, or if there's a reversion to a colder, more southern track, remains an unknown. Again, they're at the mercy of these low pressure systems. So these models, they started to agree with what was happening for this weekend, but now as we actually got into Wednesday, some of these models started drifting apart with the uncertainty. That's why everything is still so up in the air. The meteorologist that distributed this said he would say that the odds do not favor a southern or colder adjustment based on trends in the upper level pattern over the continental United States, but he just doesn't know. Additionally, the current forecast reflects over 2 inches of liquid equivalent Saturday and Sunday across much of the county warning area. They also do not have a handle on how much of this is going to go towards snow, sleet, freezing rain, or just regular cold rain. Again, everything is still, even as we get closer to Saturday, up in the air. They reiterate that there is still a tremendous amount of uncertainty. It's one of those we'll know it when we see it type situations. I think as we get closer to Thursday into Friday, Thursday night, Friday morning, we'll have a much better idea of what we are to expect. So again, some of these people out there have been touting 30 inches of snow on top of 5 inches of ice, give or take, and that's just absolutely insane. It's a worst case scenario, and it's a scenario that could happen, but the odds of it happening are tremendously against our favor. They also say that after this storm does pass, no matter what happens, the temperatures are going to drop, and they're going to drop for down into the single digits. We're going to get an Arctic blast like you wouldn't believe. Whatever falls is likely to remain in place for at least a day or two, and so we could deal with icy road conditions for a couple of days. So if we don't get anything, or if we get everything, then it could be possible that these single digit temperatures just pretty much puts everything at an extreme hazard days after it happens. I just came from running some errands, and there are trucks running brine on the roads right now, so the roads are getting treated here in the Knoxville area. You may have been hearing about a warm nose situation, so hopefully I can do pictures in picture here on this video. But basically what it is twice a day there are several weather service offices that put up balloons or radiosondes, and these balloons, they go up to almost 100,000 feet, and then they burst and the radiosonde falls back to Earth. So they do this twice a day. It's just a little thing, it's about half the size, about this big, half the size of a sheet of paper. It's about this, these are the dimensions, and about squared. So the warm nose is what they see on a graph. When the balloon goes up, it's recording temperature, winds, dew point, humidity, and a couple of other things, pressure adjustments and such. What happens is, or altitude, I guess. So what happens is there's a graph that comes up, and at the center of it is 0 degrees centigrade, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And this line starts to drift to the upper right. So as the pressure as they go higher in altitude, this line gets further and further to the right, and the temperature, which is a red line, naturally as you go higher in altitude, the temperature drops, and it can get quite chilly up there in the upper levels of the jet stream. It can get into minus 30 degrees and up to minus 70 degrees, even colder. So as these temperatures start to drop, as the balloon rises, if there's a warm nose situation, the temperatures and perhaps the dew points will actually go back over. Usually the temperatures are going to go this way towards the colder side, but if it hits a warm nose situation, those temperatures will drift over into the above freezing point. And how prominent that line is could determine whether or not we get freezing rain, or we get just a sleet type mix, or grapple, or some icy precipitation. But if it's just barely going across that line, if it's not very prominent, then it could be grapple, it could be just you know, some ice crystals, it could be sleet. If it's a more pronounced nose, if it looks Jimmy Durante-ish, then chances are we could have some pretty serious freezing rain conditions. And you know, it's also not just where that warm nose is, it's how low to the ground that it is, or how low in altitude that warm nose is. So what you're seeing is it's cold, it's below freezing, then it's above freezing, and then it's back to below freezing. So as the precipitation falls from the higher altitudes, it falls as snow, you know, the snow crystals, then they come down, hit that nose, and they melt. And then as they fall, if that nose is close to the ground, it gets back into the cold temperatures, but it hasn't had time to freeze. And so when it hits the surface of something, it freezes on contact. If it's high enough, if that warm nose is high enough, it'll probably refreeze before it hits the ground. And it could be sleet, it could be grapple, it could be ice, and some level of frozen precipitation. And so if that nose is lower to the ground, then it's a potential for freezing rain. So again, there's a great deal of uncertainty with this system that's coming in. We still don't know what's going to happen. We know we're going to get something, we just don't know exactly what. So it's going to be anywhere from blizzard of the century levels of snow all the way to just a cold January rain. So with that, you know, pay attention to what the Weather Service is putting out. As we get closer to Friday, I think we'll have a much better idea as to what the precipitation is going to be. And as far as ham radio is concerned, I'm going to be meeting with some people here in a little bit as I record this, and we're making plans. We should be out on ham radio making hourly check-ins with everybody to see how they're doing, depending on how this system pans out. So we'll have more information on that. We could even do some live streaming. So okay, so something you might not think about, but something I did want to cover. We could have the potential for freezing rain as this uncertainty continues. So I'm showing you my heat pump outside, because you'll notice that about half of the heat pump is exposed to the elements. And there's my tower, by the way. And the other half is inside. Well, we had a freezing rain issue a few years ago, and I kept hearing a weird noise from out here, and what had happened was ice had collected on one of these fan blades where it was out in the open, and the other two were not. So it was actually going out of balance. Fortunately, it wasn't a serious issue, but what I did was I shut the air off, and then I used some de-icer, and I sprayed it on the fan blades, let it sit for a couple of minutes. I did all three of them just to be absolutely sure, and then I restarted it, and everything was fine after that. So just one little minor thing to consider: if you have a heat pump outside that's exposed, or like mine, halfway exposed, you know, if we do have freezing rain, just be mindful that this could be an issue. So just something trivial, but definitely something for consideration. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this. I'm starting to feel a little bit of rain. This is not the event. This is just a little rain shower that's expected tonight before the main event. So just a little bit of rain tonight. But yeah, tonight and tomorrow should be pleasant temperatures. And then Friday is when the action starts, from pretty much the afternoon into the evening. So we'll see how everything goes. Stay with us. We'll put out another video later on. Stay safe, stay prepared, and we'll talk to you soon.